Hello and welcome to the series of OpenText Data Protector demos. In this particular episode, we're talking about integration with Documentum. Before we move over into the actual demo, I would like to spend a minute about the Documentum integration and how it's done. The special characteristics of Documentum is that information is stored in a database, which is usually referred to as the content server or DocBase. And at the same time, there is some metadata that sits on a file system that is in relation with everything that is in the database. So those two elements need to be backed up in parallel and obviously also online because nobody wants to get disturbed while a backup is running. So we integrated with that in a special way by creating an integration which does both database backup and file system backup at the same time. Usually in the past or for other integrations, that's two separate processes. For Documentum, this has been combined. There's also a third element that is important to backup, which is the full text index. And the recommendation is that this is backed up basically at a higher frequency and maybe even at different times. So there are a number of options that you can also pull from Data Protector. So now, since this is clear and the architecture is laid out, let's move over to the demo and check how it works. So first of all, and once you're connected to the Data Protector Cell Manager GUI, we want to make sure that everything is okay with our backup landscape. But obviously, we want to concentrate on the Documentum backup. So the first thing we want to do is to check if we have the right agents installed. Since in my particular demo over here, Documentum is installed with all its elements on the same server, which means in our example, we have an Oracle server installed. That's an Oracle 19c server and the corresponding Oracle integration for Data Protector. We also have the Documentum integration itself, which is the overarching architecture element, and it manages the data flow coming in from the database and from the file system. The file system itself is backed up by the disk agent, which is the general purpose agent that we have for everything that sits on files or system configuration. So these are the three elements we need to get going with the configuration. Next up would be creating a backup specification for that. With Data Protector 24.1, we introduced the new integration for Documentum, and thus you will see a Documentum folder also showing up in this kind of backup tree. We add a backup by right-clicking on the Documentum folder name. We can pick from certain templates if we have these available. And the next page is actually kind of twofold. Where you have database backup and file system backup in the same configuration, like I said at the beginning. The upper half of your screen is basically the DocBase server element, which is like the information that sits on the file system. So you pick the server to back up. So these could be many systems, of course, like I said. In our example over here, we have everything installed on the same machine. You have to provide username and passwords and group or domain you are connected to with that user. And you have to pick a path where you have installed Documentum. So if you browse from here, usually, and that's kind of the default, is C Documentum, but obviously you can store that on any other drive or any other kind of path name. So Documentum is the default. The DocBase server is configured in the lower half of your screen. From a database, you pick the database type. Right now, at the moment, we support Oracle, but in future versions, there will be more database vendors being available from that dropdown. You pick the server where the database is installed on. Like I said, this can be a different server, and that's the usual recommendation that it needs to be a different server. And you check for the database instances, usernames, and domain or system connectivity here. If you also want to back up the archive logs coming in from the Oracle system, then hit this archive log backup checkbox here. When hitting the next button, you will see the overview of your current situation. First of all, there is that content area that you have to pick from. There are 3 folders which are pre-selected, so you just keep them as they are. Obviously, you can select all the others as well, but those 3, config, DBA, and logs, are the most important ones. If you unfold the content section in the lower half of your screen, you see the individual content databases that are configured, and in our case, it's two of those being available over here. So you can click both at the same time. So everything that is within this backup spec sitting in the same database will be backed up with one single go from this individual backup specification. Hitting next, you have the usual choice of backup devices you may want to use. So this could be local, remote, cloud, whatever. So that's the same approach as for any other integration. And I'm not going into too much more details over here. So let's run a backup for the moment. Once the backup has started, there are a number of elements to be aware of. Data Protector will first check at the doc bases installed and selected on the Documentum server and put them into a so-called dormant state, which is actually a backup mode that the database is brought into. So once the doc base has been successfully moved into dormant state, the actual data backup starts. And I'm fast forwarding to a number of items to save some time. At a certain point in time, you will see the first of our two databases being backed up. And obviously, the database is brought out of dormant state into the normal active state, and normal operation can just resume. During the whole runtime of the backup, it stays active and usable, but it is in a read-only state for the time being. So once the first of the two databases is backed up, it moves over to the next database, puts it into dormant state, and runs the same procedure as well on that second database. So once the backup operation is finished, you see a successful message coming up, and you have all the backup statistic at your fingertips. And that's comparable to all the other integrations you may have seen running with Data Protector. So if you want to check at certain status, you have all the overview available over here. So you see that many data streams have been dealt with in parallel, and they have been distributed over a number of devices that I have selected as a target. That concludes the backup operation of Documentum. So let's move over to restore. Restore is actually done via the web-based GUI. So you go back to the home screen and unfold the menu up on the top left-hand side, and you select Restore. From here, you have a number of opportunities to restore certain data and applications, and one of it is obviously Documentum. So you click the Documentum tab here, and first thing you do is to select the client name you want to restore. So that's kind of our demo system over here. You also give it a date range because you could have done a lot of backups, and they can be of different type, like full incremental. And you pick whatever you want to restore from that time frame. So let's say you want your config data back, and you want one or many of your databases back. So first of all, we pick one of the databases. On the right-hand side, it will show the repositories belonging to that configuration, and it will automatically select the latest backup that has been done. If you need to go to a different version of backups, just hit that select backup version for restore, and it will just unfold and show you the individual backups which have been done, also with the types in brackets, so you're fully aware that this is a full backup or incremental backup. So let's say we want to get this version of backup restored. Hitting next, you have almost the same kind of configuration like you had for the backup configuration. You have two sections, an upper and a lower half of the configuration. In the upper half, you select the content data that you want to restore. Like I said, this is on the same server. In larger customer configurations, the content server destination and the database restore destination should be on different systems. So this is what you can select from here. You can give it whatever kind of location you want to restore to. And you may have to enter some settings like username, passwords, groups, and so on. You may want to do some conflict handling over here and give it the default username of that system or owning that system. So you put that into those respective fields. In the lower half of your screen, you select the database destination. So again, you pick your system from here. You may want to give it some extra settings on the right-hand side. but from here you would just give it the typical Oracle username and group settings. So click Next to get a selection for devices. It will usually automatically select the devices that fits your need. In case you want to have some manual override here, you click Manual Device Selection from here, and then it will just post you a list of available devices in your Cell Manager configuration. So you can always redirect from other places. Going for automatic device selection here, hitting Next. You may even have a choice of individual piece of media that you have stored your data onto. You may have done multiple copies in a 3-2-1-1-0 strategy approach. So that is what you have available from here. And when you click Next, the final page is the summary of your whole restore operation. And the very last step from here is to hit the restore button and watch your data to come back. Now, this concludes today's session on Data Protector being integrated with OpenText Documentum. Thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye.